Thank you, Duplo team. Thank you for having me. My name is Olorunnisola Saheed Olalekan. I'm a graduate of accounting from the University of Ilorin. I graduated about a decade ago. And interestingly for me, I also became a chartered accountant while leaving school. So also about a decade ago. So I'm a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. I'm also a certificate person. I'll put it that way, especially once I see that this certification is going to add value to me and then to whatever team I'm actually working with. Immediately I left school. During my service year, I had a plan that every year until I actually get a footing on my career, I will actually do a professional exam. So immediately before that year of my service year, I wrote the CISA exam. CISA is Certified Information System Auditor of the ISACA. ISACA is Information Systems Audit and Control Association. So yeah, so I'm also a CISA holder. Then the following year, I also wrote the ACC Diploma in IFRS because I actually have passion for financial reporting and anything that has to do with double entry. So accounting has always been my thing. I always say that to people. And I think I've always demonstrated that to everyone I've actually come across with. To the glory of God, I've actually also tutored not less than 100 persons that have actually qualified as chartered accountants and are doing well in their careers. So it's actually a very good one for me. And that's one thing I always tell people, that if there's something I'm going to stop at any point in my life, I don't think teaching is one of it. So I will always see myself teaching at one point or the other at any level, right? And it actually started during my school days. I was known for taking free tutorials for any course for any level. So it was really a good one for me. It helped me to network, to know a lot of people while in school, help a lot of people graduate with good grades, and then sensitize them about how, even while I was also starting my career, I was able to let them know that with the level of determination that is required and then passion, you can actually get to the epoch of your career. I can remember that my first job, I did not even know who submitted my CV as a graduate trainee at that time until I actually joined the company. Yeah, and that was Stanbic IBTC Bank, if I remember. It was after I joined that I now stumbled on one of the persons I used to tutor while in school. She was my 2-year junior. And she was now saying, she was very happy that I was later able to join Stanbic, that she was the one that sent my CV. And I'm like, really? All of that. And, so it was really a good one for me, despite the fact that people felt, why was I doing tutorials free of charge in school while other people were actually charging funds and all of that. So I always tell people that the rewards will always come, even if it's not in the immediate. And I think I've always had that at the back of my mind since I left secondary school. So I finished secondary school at a very, very tender age. I can remember I went to Loyola College in Ibadan, and in my set, I was the youngest guy. So you can imagine what that means. And one of the most brilliant guys in school. So then I wrote WAEC, I wrote NECO, and I think I passed. I think I had all my grades necessary required for gaining admissions. And at that point in time, the plan was just to go to school, study accounting. Then my preferred school was OAU. Any other thing apart from IFE was nothing, you understand? So
did you go to OAU?
I wanted to. So
because I actually wanted to OAU.
Okay, so I wanted to go to IFE. So that was all it was in my mind, go to IFE, study accounting. Until I did my first JAMB and I had 192, you can imagine. Having 19 in accounting. Me that actually wanted to study accounting, having that very low score in basic accounts, you can imagine how depressing that would be. So, but because I had the passion was there to anyhow, I must actually study accounting and all of that. I did the second JAMB. Unfortunately, JAMB did not release my results. No reasons, nothing whatsoever. So I was almost depressed at that point. You can imagine what that means. People were like, what is troubling this guy? We know you to be very brilliant. What's happening to you and all of that? You understand what I mean? So then I stumbled on one of our tutors that was taking us JAMB classes then the guy was like, he being a science student, he knew about ICANN that you don't even need to be a graduate before you start ICANN. So I started with the accounting technician scheme of ICANN, right? And good for me, I had very good tutors, like very, very sound tutors that were able to explain things to you and all of that. So you can imagine where I was coming from. Me that I had 19 in JAMB, in accounts. Then I wrote ATS1 and I was the best student in accounts in Nigeria. So
wow, that's really impressive.
Exactly. So you can imagine that leap. Then I wrote the third JAMB that year and I had 292. You can imagine. So from 19 in account, 292. So I had 19 from 19 in accounts and I had 88 in accounts.
Wow.
But then I already switched my attention from OAU. Then I was now pursuing University of Illinois. So I'm just trying to show you how the passion over the years have actually grown in terms of having the passion to say it's us to be accounting on. Exactly. So it has always been like that. And I continued ATS2. So I had 292, but Unilore still did not give me admission that year. So third JAMB wasted as well. So I continued with my ICANN, so you can imagine. So I continued ICANN to say, okay, maybe this is what God actually has in stock for me. Let me just pursue this professional career and all of it. So I did ATS2. I also was the best in quantitative analysis in Nigeria then. So ICANN was making sense. Like every level I was passing with prizes. You understand what I mean? And then to be candid, the exams were actually very tough. But it built that drive, that passion, you understand, that determination to say, this accounting thing, we are going to get it right. Yeah. So then I wrote the fourth JAMB. At that point, I already finished ICANN ATS. That means I was made qualified as chartered accountant before getting.
You already chartered accountant before you even started university.
So already at the middle stage. So I was halfway done. Halfway done being a chartered accountant before getting admission. So that already helped me, give me an edge, you understand? So 100 level, 200 level, I was still on a low key in school. Nobody knew me, just scoring good grades, moving on, you understand? So at some point, there's no way people will not notice you in school. When they just see this score sheet and they are like, who is this guy that's just scoring A's in all the accounting courses and all of that? So yeah, so that was at the point where I actually started taking people tutorials, right? And then the passion for accounting actually was from there, right? Trying to make sure that whatever I understand, I let people understand it. I let people know about it. And so that helped me. So my first job, Stanbic IBTC, from the point of it, a lot of people were posted to marketing, a lot of people were posted to branch operations, you understand? But because of the certifications I already have, Stanbic actually put me in internal audits. And that was actually a very big one, you understand? I can remember then that I think in the whole of the department, we're not more than 22 thereabouts, and it was just those 22 guys that were handling internal audit for the whole of Nigeria and Kenya and Ghana. So it was actually a big deal for me as a graduate trainee in that kind of department. You understand what I mean? So
yes,
yeah, so exactly. So I started on a very good notes in terms of starting your career. But at that point, I already applied to one of the big fours, Deloitte. So Deloitte was still, at some point they wanted to give me risk advisory as a department, but I was not really interested. I actually wanted audit. It was audit for me or nothing. You understand? So I rejected that one. Then they came back later that, okay, audit is available now. But I was already at that point, I was enjoying Stanbic because the department was actually very good. And I was really loved in terms of the level of hard work you put into it, in terms of team spirit and team building. I think the fact that I was able to relate with a lot of people while in school had actually helped me. You understand? So team building,
And
teamwork, exactly, was very easy for me. Training and all of that and development. So I already have all of it planned out in terms of what I want to do this year, what I want to do. And that's one thing I always advise people that are just coming up. That's one thing you must have at the back of your mind. You should not allow anyone to be the one to your life should not just be going on a roll, right? You have to have things planned out. Do you get? So as soon as I finished NYSC, I already have it at the back of my mind. I needed to join one of the big fours. Do you get? So it was not coming, but Stanbic came up and it was really making sense. So I was then having a dilemma. Should I leave Stanbic for the big four? Knowing fully well that if I stay in the bank in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, in terms of monetary value, I'll be getting more, right? Exactly. But in terms of career-wise, I'll be able to do more if I join a Deloitte. So I was able to put this together a lot of nights, not be able to sleep, trying to work it out, which will I actually pick. So in the long run, I actually went to Deloitte. It was actually a very tough call, right? But
what was the specific reason why you chose Deloitte at the end of the day after the long run?
So you can imagine the same question you actually asked me. One of the Deloitte partners also asked me the same question. Now, why are you leaving bank for us, right? It does not really look reasonable if you look at it from the outside. So I told him that one thing that was working that I had at the back of my mind is that at some point in life, I actually have it in plans to be an all-round consultant. If you understand what I mean. So I know that if I stay in the bank as an internal auditor in the bank, the best I could actually get is to also do internal audits in professionals in service industries, banks, insurance, and all of that. Do you understand? That's the best I can actually. But then Deloitte was offering me in external audits. So while I was in Deloitte, so I'm just trying to now play it back to say, okay, I was able to achieve all those things. So while I was in Deloitte, I audited big companies like Dangote, audited the Nestle, audited the Microsoft, leading the audits. You understand what I'm saying? So what I told him at that interview was that being in external audits, I have more clients to service and then to understand their operations and then to be able to help more businesses than if I was staying in the Stanbic. If I was staying in Stanbic, at best, I'm helping Stanbic. Okay, different units, the credit units, the investment units, the pensions fund, and all of that. But if I go to a Deloitte, I know that we have different clients. Do you understand? Especially with the fact that I was then being able to join the manufacturing sector. So I have all the GSKs, the Dangotes, you understand, the Microsofts, the Nestle's, exactly, in my portfolio. So it was really good. On the long run, I joined because of that particular reason. And I can remember, because of that passion that I actually had, people noticed me and what I actually do even from my first job. You understand? Well, I remember that I was able to identify a particular gap in terms of knowledge base of people that has been employed into the firm. I observed that people that were non-accountants were actually struggling with some basics, right? So I was able to develop a training plan the following year. So that was really a big one for them to say, someone that just joined the last year is already developing a training plan for us, for people that are joining the following year. You understand what I mean? So I was given an award for being innovative, right? And that actually was really a good momentum for me in the firm, right? People started noticing that, okay, there's a guy here in this department. I'll also go to if we have any form of issues and all of that. So I also enjoyed my time in Deloitte until I got tired. Okay, so at some point I got tired. You said?
I said you actually had an interesting start.
Yeah, very, very actually.
Starting with Stanbic IBTC, having to choose Stanbic and Deloitte. I mean, anybody who wants to be in that position.
Absolutely. So after I spent 4 years in Deloitte, so I got tired, so to speak, in terms of the level of work was increasing by the day, and in my opinion, I think the value I was getting for myself was not commensurate. So I decided that it was time to move. Then, so I had led Dangote Industries Limited. That's a Dangote group in one of my audits. So I had a good relationship with the group CFO. So he just called me one day and said, Saheed, this issue that you identified for us that we need to resolve, we think you should just come in and then come and solve it for us. And I'm like, come in as what? Right? So immediately then we discussed, and the next thing I had was I should just go and negotiate package with HR. You understand? So, right. So that was how I joined Dangote. That was how I joined Dangote. There was no more than that. So there was a gap. There was a particular issue I needed to fix, right? So I was in Dangote for 2 years, I think, right? Yeah. So then I used to stay on the mainland. Then I wanted to, and the job was on the island. Almost all the jobs have been on the island. It was just that Dangote, Deloitte actually started from the mainland. So I got tired, the work stress and all of that. I decided to say, I need to change jobs again. Although I was not very aggressive about it, I was not really pushing. But I was talking to people that, guys, if there's any role somewhere, I actually want to move. And I just got a call, a meeting invite from GSK. So I joined GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceutical after 2 years in Dangote. So people always say, this guy, where are you moving to? Yeah, right. So at some point, if I just get too tired, I always just believe that if I get too tired, I'm not offering the level of value I like to offer, right? There's no point in me staying, right? Especially when I've identified a problem and the problem has been resolved. I always feel like maybe it's the time to move, to have other challenges.
A problem solver.
So you can see that again. right. So I would just like those kind of challenges. Let's resolve it. Let's move on to something else, right? So then I moved to GSK. I was in the corporate reporting team. That's one thing I love to do, especially after moving out of audit. So I was in finance in Dangote. So I also did corporate reporting, which is like financial reporting, so to speak, in GSK. So yeah. I think I spent like 1.5 years in GSK. Then so I'm now in a small oil and gas business, right? That's actually growing in Abuja. Yeah.
You've had a quite interesting run. I mean, I know. Your career progression has been, should I say, smooth and
yeah.
Quite progressive. You've worked with some of the biggest companies, Stanbic, Deloitte, Dangote, GSK. That's a very interesting profile. So thank you again for joining us. So that's interesting. I actually have a number of questions that I wanted to ask you, but you've covered most of them.
I guess that's much. Yeah, right.
I was going to ask how you decided on your career, but it's obvious you've always wanted accounting right from the beginning.
Absolutely.
But quick question, what made you love accounting enough to pursue it so much that you wrote JAM for 3 years, did ICANN certifications, and you actively pursued it?
Okay, so I also say that my mom was actually pivotal to that decision. I can remember when I was, from GSS 3 to SS1, they'll start asking you have to be going to science class, you have to be in commercial class. And apparently I was one of the best students at my GSS 3 level in terms of results, in terms of being active in science classes and all of that. So all my teachers in school were like, you have to be in science class. So I remember then SS1, they were forcing me. Anytime they did not see me in a physics class, they would say they should go and drag me from wherever I am. They need to bring me to that class, right? But my mom we've always been saying it from small, if you know what I mean, right? That, all those times where you had all those kind of things in school, career day and all of that, and you've always just have that point, and to be candid with you, there's nobody in my family that's ever been an accountant. So it's not like I have someone I was actually looking up to that this is who I actually want to be. But I remember my mom used to just mention in those days that she actually loves the way they used to mention that. I think a particular politician, I think it was MK Abiola, that he heard that he was a chartered accountant and that, and how wealthy that man was. Okay, so it was part of it. So it was always there. My mom always rang it in my head that she will actually love me to be an accountant. And I think I actually also love the idea. So at that point, when those teachers were disturbing me, you must always be in science classes and all of that, I just had to tell mom, come and speak to the principal in school. And that was all. Yeah.
So from there, you just decided that, okay, is this account?
Anything, it has to be accounting. Even when I was not getting what they were doing there, right? You get, it just had to be accounting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And so the next question, so this campaign is around the love that finance professionals have for what they do. Right. So to lead the conversation, I would like to know what love means to you. In relation to your career, yes. What does love mean to you?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think love for me, when it comes to career, has to do with knowing oneself. You understand? In terms of how much do you know yourself in terms of what you actually love to do. So sorry for using that word love again. So I'm saying, yeah, yourself, right? What exactly do you see yourself being into, doing, right? That would then tend to explain what exactly you actually love. So I've actually had cases in as I was growing where people actually felt, you're going to be, especially when I was in Deloitte, people were shouting, you are going to remain in this firm as a partner because we think you actually love audits, right? But in my mindset, what I actually love is, just like you said, solving problems. So not necessarily audit, consulting, business development, you understand? So that's what I mean by saying love then talks about, to me, what you think about yourself, you understand, in terms of self-knowledge, what you believe you can do, right? Exactly. So love would then bring about that passion. It will bring about that determination, right? Now that you love what you do, you will find out that you're able to put in all your energy, right? Even when you face challenges on the way, you want to keep going. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you think love is one of the biggest drivers for career success? Do you think the love for what you do contributes to your growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people that by the time you continue what you don't love, you get frustrated at some point. Yeah, that without love, you actually be frustrated at some point in time, because to a very large extent, the environment, right, will start affecting you, right? People will not know the reason why you're not being the best at what you do, not knowing that it's because you actually don't love it, right? So it's always very important for people. And I always tell people that you can actually love something today, and then tomorrow you don't really love it. So we should not always try to force it in. So a lot of people just believe that, oh, this thing I said I loved 10 years ago, I must continue to love it. There's actually room for change. So yeah, the fact that you said you've always loved tax does not mean that every year, every time, everywhere, forever, it could be tax. At some point in time, you actually see that tax, you could actually streamline it to just a segment of tax that people actually don't really love. Say things like transfer pricing. You understand what I mean? So things like that do happen. And that's why love is actually very critical, right? Because if you go on and on and on, you just find out that you lose years, right? That you've actually put into that particular career without loving it. Yeah.
That's great. That's actually interesting. So if you don't love what you do, you get tired at some point. Do you
Absolutely.
think love is enough for
Yeah, I think in everything.
professional development?
Yeah, I understand. I think love is not enough, especially when you just stop at the love stage. So, like I said the other time, that love should breed something, right? So the fact that so let me just use an example. I don't know whether you watch football. So for
I don't know, but
footballers now,
maybe Temitope does.
okay, so for footballers now, the fact that they actually love football does not make you a footballer. You're right. So it requires some level of hard work. It requires level of discipline. It requires level of determination, right? So there are some things that you say you love it, but it's not everything you love you can actually go into, right? You must be ready to give it sacrifice, to give it the level of determination and discipline that is required. Very, very critical. Yeah. Love alone will not be enough. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think I don't watch football, but from your analysis, I understand the perspective
Right.
you're
Right.
coming from. So apart from loving what you do, there has to be determination and I would say the technical skills required. So
Absolutely.
just like Ronaldo.
Exactly. I agree with you on that. I don't want to mention Ronaldo because I'm actually a Messi fan. So just go
Oh,
ahead. All right, go ahead, please.
so the next question from our conversation, I know you love your profession, but I'd just like you
Yeah.
to reiterate that. Do you love your profession and how has this contributed to your career growth?
I think I love my profession so much, very, very much. In terms of just like I mentioned to you, I think it's been from that time then that I started ICANN. That was when I actually, so when I was in secondary school, I had that love for accounting. I really did not really understand what it was all about. You understand? So even while leaving school, secondary school, I never knew there was anything like ICANN. Mine was just to go to IFE, graduate with first class in accounting, and just get one job and just move on, right? So it was when I started ICANN, I knew that there was more to accounting than just having a first degree in accounting, right? So that helped me. I remember when I won my first prize then, there was this particular fellow of the institute, I think was one of the past presidents, that mentioned a particular point. And my mom and myself, we just looked at each other in the face and like, that is it for us, right? So and it was like, there is no way you'll be an accountant that knows what he's doing and you'll be at the lowest level of poverty. And that statement was it for me, right? So especially looking at the background I was coming from, when you actually struggle to get a lot of things while growing up and all of that. So that was it for me to know that, guys, if you put your heads to this thing, you can actually become recognized in this profession. Yeah. And it's a kind of profession that keeps going by the day, right? I tell people that the fact that we passed an exam together 10 years ago does not mean that we are the same level of knowledge, right? You get it. So it then depends on who goes back to see what are the updates to these things, especially for things like IFRS. They keep getting more by the day, having updates.
Yeah,
So if
new
you are not
trend.
exactly, if you are not on top of the game, you just find out that you'll be an accountant, but when it comes to speaking, when it comes to talking about what you do, you just find out that you're actually behind, right?
Well, that's great. So my next question would be, what do you love most about your profession? Is it something you do that you love, or is it something about your work environment? What do you love most?
Okay, so I think one thing about the finance profession or the accountancy profession is that it's a kind of profession that's how do I put this now? You cannot say you are on your own. How do I don't know how I want to say that. So just like I mentioned to you that I love training, I love to ensure that people actually also get along whatever I'm actually trying to do, right? I found out that this is the kind of profession that, because of the fact that things keep changing, there's always a room for learning, right? You have to learn, unlearn, and relearn at every point in life. So it's not the kind of profession that you just believe that once you know this thing and you just go ahead and sit down on it, you can actually be eased out. Yeah.
That's actually quite insightful.
Right.
So accounting is not a profession that you'll be alone. So there's like the sense of community.
Exactly. So more like you always have this team that you must always work with.
That's interesting. So another quick question: do you work remotely or on site?
Yeah. So I work remotely now, but I do go to offices for if I have meetings.
Okay, which one do you prefer if you were to choose?
Absolutely remote. Absolutely remote. Absolutely right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I believe most of us.
I always tell people, maybe because I've worked in Lagos for a major part of my life, and I've actually observed that a lot of good time, a lot of good timing that should have been used on the job are being used in the traffic. You understand what I'm saying? So you tend to spend 2 hours, 3 hours in the morning and even in the evening. That was one of the reasons why I actually agreed to come to Abuja. So I think Abuja is actually saner.
No traffic in Abuja, not really actually.
At least to a very large extent, saner. Yeah. If I will use that word. Yeah. So to me, I just believe that even if for organizations, especially when your tasks are things that you can actually do offsite, so why should we make everyone come to work? Bottom line is, are we getting the level of productivity required? Yeah.
So for someone who is just starting out, this is someone with an entry-level accountant or finance professional, would you suggest remote?
Yeah, so it depends on the level of relationship and organogram that the organization actually have in place. So I know that I have staff that we communicate regularly, like I have subordinates, right? That we have meetings, I can schedule meetings with them any point in time, walk them through whatever they are doing, right? Knowing fully well that the accounting softwares are online, the Excel they are working with is online, right? So we can always do whatever they are doing. It's even the kind of work we are trying to say that people should go green. So we should reduce the number of papers you print in the office. So if I don't need to print in the office and I don't need to papers, why should I keep on making people come to the office by force, especially when they can do away with it? Yeah.
That's actually true. That's what the world is embracing.
Absolutely.
Right now. So another quick question. Your career trajectory has been smooth, that's been really nice. Yeah. But if you could change one thing or do something differently, what would it be?
Okay. That's a tough one, actually. I think maybe I will have stayed a bit longer in Deloitte. Yeah, apart from that 4 years. Yeah. So there are some personal reasons and professional reasons for it, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. So this is my second to the last question. What does a perfect work day look like?
Perfect what?
A perfect work day.
Oh, a perfect work day. Okay, so great. A day that you're able to meet up all your objectives, apparently, right?
Does this happen often?
Yeah. So, no, it does not. It does not, because we're in the kind of world that's not nothing is certain, right? So there will always be that level of uncertainty. So when I mean objectives being met, then you need to put percentages to it, right? So everything is in order of priorities. So if I'm able to do the major things that I set out to do, even when other things, exigencies come into it. But the bottom line is that 70% of or 80% of what I've actually said to do on a daily basis is done, and I'm good to go.
That's great. So to my final question,
Right.
for someone who is just coming in, let's say the younger you, who is just trying to maybe take ICANN certifications or pursuing a degree in accounting, that also has a passion for the profession, what advice would you give to them?
All right. So I think one very important thing is, like I mentioned, passion and determination is very important. And then be ready to put in all the hard work, sacrifice that is required. And when you get that your first job, or let me say the first 2 years of your career, of your working career, make sure you ask all the relevant questions, right? Ask all the questions. Ask all the questions that actually seem stupid. Because if you ask those questions after year 2, you may actually now seem foolish, right? So it's better you actually ask, let people actually feel you actually stupid in year 1 and year 2. It will actually propel you in your career, right? Don't be scared of asking. Make sure you actually ask all relevant questions. Make sure you understand what you are doing in that year 1, year 2, and then you'll be on top of your career. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I've really enjoyed this session with you. It's been
Thank
quite
you.
useful. So for me, even though I'm not a finance professional, I've been able to get like 3 to 5 years that I would have to this. So I hope our audience too, when they see this, they're able to take notes and take the learnings, their real life activity. That's the last question from me. I don't know if you have any other thing to add.
Yeah, I think not at all. I think I'm also running a bit late. I have another meeting by 1. So I think just on a final note for me, I just, like I've mentioned before now, I always tell people there is one mantra that we use in ICANN, that if I can, you can, right? So no one is extra special. Like I always tell people, if you actually set your heart to do it, you can actually get it. So I've seen a lot of people that will come to me and say, I studied sociology in school, I studied English language, and on the long run, they come out with winning ICANN prizes, being the best students. So yeah.
If you can, I can. If I can, you can.
Absolutely.
I thought that's my new mantra. My mantra.
All right.
Thank you so much for your time. It's actually about 3 minutes to 1. Since you have another meeting.
Thank you for having me.
Now. So we'll send you the first draft of this before it goes out to get your approval. Also, I'll be needing your picture.
Okay, that's okay.
For the publication. So I'll reach out via LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. For having me. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, Temitope. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Yeah.
You too.
Bye. Cheers.